I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
I'm the Chaka.
I'm Marcy.
Tristan Jones.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to talk about the season finale. That's right, part 3 of the 3-part finale of X-Men 97. Episode titled Tolerance is Extinction Part 3. It was a 43-minute long episode, the longest of the season, rightfully so. Let's get right to it. I'm going to get everybody's thoughts on the episode before we get into the details. Tristan, I want you to start us off. What did you think about the final episode of the season?
Oh man, that was some of the best television I've seen. We say that a lot about a lot of the shows that we cover, but like,
yeah,
I'm gonna put that on us and say like we just have really great taste and like prestige television. Man, I was for what I love about this show. And I'm gonna be brief on this, but like what I love about the show is that on one hand, like you know that you're looking at a cartoon, and we can always map out how cartoons are going to go. Like they're not that unpredictable. But I was like, it was a lot of tense moments. There was a lot of moments where I'm like, man, I don't know if they're gonna make it on this. The show has already kind of like thrown some, at least for me, some loopholes. So I thought it was a very tense like episode where I was at the edge of my seat. Left us with the classic cliffhanger at the end. The classic Game of Thrones, like we're gonna put all the heroes different spots on the map. So it really get you hyped for the next what's coming next. But I loved it. Like 10 out of 10. Like this show is not missed once. So 10 out of 10 for me.
Marcy, what do you think about the final episode?
I agree with Tristan. It was a really great episode. I think we'd all just been waiting for it and been hyping it up, and I think it did live up to the hype. I just loved all the fight scenes, but then there's a lot of really great monologues by both Magneto and Bastion to where you can kind of see the points that they're making, and you can also see the points that the X-Men are making. So it was very well written to like be ambiguous. Obviously, we know the bad guy is Bastion, Mr. Sinister, but Bastion was also kind of making a little bit of sense on what he was telling the X-Men. So it was really well written. Again, I liked the action scene, a little bit of humor interspersed in it. And then it left us with a really great cliffhanger to look forward to next season. So just very excited to see what they do in season 2.
Yeah, we do know there will be a season 2 and a season 3 at the very least. So we've got a lot more X-Men 97 to talk about in the future. Frank, this is, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I think this is probably your favorite show, right? This is something you were looking forward to. How did it live up to your expectations?
My only quarrel with it was that it wasn't an hour and a half long. Other than that, I thought it was and I spoke about this last week too. It's very easy to like put too much into an episode and like draw from different comic book storylines and different timelines, and they keep doing it, and they keep seamlessly like combining all these different storylines and comic book lines, and it makes sense. It makes sense. It flows. Like I said before, like it's very very hard to implement multiple characters and storylines and multiple arcs in one show. And when you're able to do that, which a lot of TV shows are very rarely hit on, that's when you know you have a masterpiece. And for X97, for it to be for them to transition so well into more of an adult line, um, with the action, with the light cursing, like it doesn't seem forced. It seems like it's this is the mutant dilemma, human dilemma going on here, and you feel the stress, um, from each scene. You feel the struggle with each scene, and like to make a cartoon so such a symbolism of today's society, is incredible. This episode was perfect. I had no issues with it at all. Um, I will say this, not to my own horn. I did predict Apocalypse. I predicted the Phoenix. I predicted all this shit came into fruition in this episode. So I kept pausing and yelling at this TV screen. I was crunk. I was jumping up and down like I was watching a basketball game. It was very, very. It was a flawless episode, man. Like 10 out of 10.
Brittany, what are your thoughts on it?
There's just so much to unpack with this episode. It was definitely like a great finale. Now, for me personally, it still does not outshine the mid-season finale, as we like to call here, at least Justin and I like to call that here on the show or about the show. I don't know. There was just so much there was so much unexpected turn of events in the fifth episode.
Mhm.
There was not like any predictability necessarily for the finale. However, you could see that it was being wrapped up, and it was being wrapped up very beautifully, of course. And shout out to Justin for letting us know ahead of time that there was a mid-credit scene, and it's a very fast scene. Of course, you blink and it's gone almost. But I love seeing the interactions between Charles and Magneto. There's, again, so much to unpack, lots going on in terms of action and just story in general. And of course, it left me having so many questions, like what's happening to some of these characters that, we did see didn't really have a huge role to play in the finale. But it's like, where are they? Like, what's happened to them? Like, I need answers. And so for that, and to have such a cliffhanger, to have that impact on me personally, this show just like nailed it, like absolutely nailed it. It's definitely 10 out of 10 for me in general. But like I said, I still will rank the fifth episode as my favorite episode of the entire season. But this one was a great way to just like round up, Tolerance Is Extinction. And bravo to everyone who took part in developing the story and making it come to life. Bo DeMaio, damn, you did the damn thing.
Yeah, he certainly did. And this was a great finale. I agree with you. I liked episode 5 a little bit more than the finale, but it was, very strong season of TV. I remember when we heard about this, like, was it 2-3 years ago? The news came out at Comic-Con, I believe, and Brittany and Frank, we both did a pod after that Comic-Con. It was like this was announced, and the Spider-Man animated series, which we have not seen yet, was announced. And I remember thinking, like, this is a really cool idea, but like, I did not think it would be as good as it was. Like, it was really kind of kind of incredible what they did to take a beloved cartoon from 30 years ago and then bring it back and make it so much better. And I can't emphasize this enough. Like, if you have not watched the OG series, the first 5 seasons, I wouldn't really recommend going back and watching it after watching X-Men 97, because the level of X-Men 97 is so high that I think you're going to be disappointed. That's taking nothing away from the OG series, because I think that it had some great stuff, and obviously we saw that stuff brought to the forefront in X-Men 97. But really, really great show. It's currently the highest rated Marvel production on Rotten Tomatoes at 99% from critics, which begs the question: is this the greatest Marvel television product that's ever been produced? Tristan, what are your thoughts on that? When I say Marvel television, I want to say not just MCU. That could be other Marvel animated, it could be other Marvel TV shows, like the ones that were on Netflix, the Defenders shows of Daredevil and Punisher. But Tristan, what do you think? Is this maybe the best season of Marvel TV so far?
That's an excellent question. So, like, I like to, when we have our basketball, football, any sports conversation.
Yeah.
And I always try to make sure that we distinguish between best and greatest.
Okay.
Like, there's a clear distinction. Greatest, we're talking about mythology. We're talking about the way people discuss it, the memories and things that come with that, the accolades, all these things kind of rolled into one. It's how I define greatness. Best is more like technical.
Okay.
Best for me, I think it's still Daredevil. like when I think Marvel television shows, like the bar for me is always gonna be Daredevil, but I also have more of a knowledge of Daredevil than I did for X-Men. Like I still haven't. Sorry, Brittany, I hadn't. I haven't watched the recaps and anything like that. Like it, my favorite rapper just won a rap battle, and it's the playoff. I'm sorry. Like some things are just some
Your
things are just taking over
priorities,
my life.
your priorities are perfectly in line. It's all good.
I watched an hour-long Kendrick song bracket on YouTube last night, like by two white kids. Like I'm sorry, like I'm my brain is warped. But I think for best is Daredevil for me. Greatest, I have to take myself out of it. Like the way
Yeah.
other people talk about X-Men and the way people. One of my best friends, one of my best friends on planet Earth. I've known him since I was 14. I didn't know he watched X-Men,
You better fix that
but like,
shit. One of my best. Yeah, there you go. One of my best friends, motherfucker.
look at you jealous.
But is Frank your best or your greatest friend? We gotta.
Yeah. Might be both. Who knows? Who knows? I haven't done my ranking. But no, like again, one of my best friends. Like the only thing we talk about is sports, like in general, and like
Right.
family stuff. And he hit me like around episode 4 or 5, and was about to give me this long breakdown of X Men. I didn't know that he was that big of an X Men fan. So I have to say that X Men is the greatest in my opinion because of the way that other people talk about it, like the intimate,
Yeah.
like the catharsis that people talk about the show with. So like, and again, I can't relate to that. So for me, it's Daredevil on the best side, and then X Men is the greatest. Like if you say it's the greatest, I have no argument against
Very, very good distinction that you laid out for us. Marcy, same question to you. Do you think this is the best or the greatest, or do you have maybe do you have one of each in each category for Marvel TV?
Given that I don't watch a lot of Marvel TV, I will say this is probably the greatest because the only other Marvel TV that I have really watched a lot of is probably Spidey and his friends because my nephew was obsessed with that. And that's a pretty good show too. But yeah, X-Men 97, let's say it's my greatest Marvel TV so far.
Okay. Frank, same question to you.
While Tristan was talking, I also pondered this because that was a very good question, by the way. And I'm with Tristan on that. I think when I watch Daredevil, and this is me watching Daredevil without knowing much of his storyline, 'cause I didn't read the Daredevil comic books. I didn't read the Defenders. Um, the story of Daredevil, I think for one, is very relatable to like humans, more so than the X-Men, more so than the Avengers and all these superpower people, and in the human element of the struggle, the internal struggle that Daredevil has. It's more ears to the ground, more street level, to where it's more relatable. Netflix had a gold mine with that show, and also I think you have to think about it from this standpoint too. I believe it's apples and oranges when we compare shows to movies within Marvel, because there's so much money, so much
Mhm.
pumped into these movies.
No, I mean
Um,
TV. No, don't
oh,
take
just
movies out of
TV.
it. Yeah, just
Okay,
TV.
yeah,
Yeah.
then it's Daredevil by
Mhm.
far. And then right behind it, I have X Men. I combine X Men 97 as one entity,
Yeah.
but that's right behind it. I just think when we talk about greatest, we're talking to add on what Tristan said. We're talking about things that transcend generations, and like my nephew's 12, so my nephew, like you, Justin, he watched the whole series of X-Men, leading to X-Men 97,
Mhm.
and he knew, like, just based off like reading the comics, because I gave him my comics like 6 years ago. He was 6. He read over 400 comics since he was 6 years old. So he's like a human data computer of like different knowledge of these characters.
Mhm.
And watching a young boy read that and like take take different like take different things from it, from what I took from it when I was that age. That just shows me the generations that the X-Men has affected people from over the last 50 years, since the 60s or 40s. Um, so when we talk about the nostalgic feeling, the the passing down of the toy and the son, or mother to daughter, of this comic book line. Now that we see it transcend on TV, it has to be X-Men. Like people, this like the Gen Z area, like the kids today, they know Avengers for what they are. Like that's the number one team now. But
Mhm.
for how as popular as Avengers were or are now, that was X-Men times 10.
Yeah.
It's like it's not even close. And like I think what kind of slowed down the momentum of X-Men was the indoctrination of the movies and how it just didn't transcend well with Bron Singer's version. I think it kind of slowed down the momentum of how great that that team was or is.
Mhm.
Um, but this cartoon, 10 episodes, I feel like has not only recharged the whole franchise, but I think it's also reintroduced the franchise of people who didn't know much about the X-Men now. So yeah, as far as greatest, I have to say the X-Men itself. But as far as like just with the technicality storyline, the human element, the protagonist, antagonist, it has to be Daredevil. Like Charlie Cox, man, he when he's on screen, he's in his bag. Like that dude is in his bag. Like it's, and I feel like this Born Again series is going to even be better because now you have the backing of Disney backing it. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Brittany, same question. What do you think?
Man, I'm not gonna elaborate too much. I'm gonna echo everything that, that Frank and Tristan have said because listen, I was little when X-Men came out back in the 90s, the OG series, right? I was very little. I used to watch it with my brother, what have you. So I didn't retain a lot of that information and story and all that of the overall story that is X-Men, aside from the characteristics and such of each individual character. So all I remember was enjoying the show. I looked forward to it, what have you. So when it was announced that X-Men 97 was coming out, and it's like, oh my God, like this is my childhood, coming back. And for it to not cater to a childlike audience, it catered to those of us who, grew up with it and are adults now. The storyline has matured, it seems, as well, right? And it's picking up exactly where it left off, which for continuity, y'all should know I'm big on continuity. So that meant a lot, even though I didn't give myself enough, you know, time to catch up and remember everything, right? I had to do some research. So that being said, for 10 episodes to carry on, give us a great performance, story, and what have you, and leave me wanting more. Again, I echo Frank and Tristan. This show is simply amazing. It's definitely probably the greatest show that I think Marvel has provided to us at this time. And it's an animation. Like that speaks volumes because most people are not into animations by any stretch these days, right? Justin, I know you're not huge on animation as it is.
I mean, I've become more so over the years. I mean, you look
Sure.
at like two of the best superhero movies ever are Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Right.
And I mean, neither one of those movies probably made what they deserve to make at the box office because they're animation. If those are live action movies, those are two multi-billion-dollar films probably.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you. Usually like I'm a live action person. Brittany, were you finished with what you're saying?
I wasn't. But to your point, for someone who's not into animation and then to slowly kind of become a little bit more of a fan, given those movies that have come out with Spider-Man and such, and then to watch an actual series that's strictly 2D, like just strictly 2D, that to me speaks volumes that Marvel Animation, Marvel Studios, they've done the damn job. They've converted people who might not be a fan of the original artwork and such to actually be invested and be fans. So I think that's what makes it simply great overall. But Daredevil, not knowing a damn thing about the storyline, not knowing who Charlie Cox was and whatnot, I was sold. Thank you, Frank. I'm forever in your debt for putting me on to that damn show. I can't get enough. I am sorry. I am so looking forward to the new sequel series and I'm here for it. That show gives everything. And if y'all have not had the opportunity to watch Daredevil, after watching our pod review, go watch Daredevil on Disney Plus. Okay, we're not sponsored to say that, but sponsor us anyway. Yes, that's it. On to you, Justin.
Yeah. Speaking of Daredevil, he actually makes an appearance in this episode, and we will get to the Easter egg characters in a little bit. But yeah, the animation thing, it's not my favorite thing, but I think I'm definitely coming around on it with shows like Invincible. Obviously, What If? I think What If was really good. The second season's much better than the first. So if you haven't seen season 2 of What If, definitely check that out. I think Loki and WandaVision probably are the best live action Marvel TV outside of the Daredevil, because I've only seen parts of the first season. I haven't watched the whole series. I need to get caught up on that before Born Again comes out next
Watch
year.
it all,
Yeah.
it all, and come back and reevaluate.
Yeah, I definitely will. But I do think that, episode in and episode out, like, pound for pound, X-Men 97, I think is ranked number one. I think it kind of has to be, because as great as WandaVision was, and it was a great, like, they took a swing and they did something different, and starting out and going through all these sitcoms throughout, like, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. That was a really cool thing, but the finale was kind of weak. And that's kind of been the problem with a lot of the Marvel or the MCU shows that Marvel's put out. Whereas this one was solid. I mean, every episode was excellent. So yeah, to me it's X-Men 97, number 1 spot. Okay, so now before we start to dive into the episode, I want to one last question to go around the group real quick. Okay, here we go. Who is your favorite character of the season, and who do you think was the MVP of this season? Whoever has an answer can chime in first. Frank's
My
got it.
my favorite character this season, Magnus, easily. Because Magnus on the surface level is portrayed as a villain on the surface level. But I think the show did a great job of like diving into his character and diving into his origin story of why he is the way he is. And I think X-Men the OG series kind of dived into it, but didn't give you a deep psyche valve
Yeah.
of why Magnus is so hateful of humans. And you saw, and in my opinion, you saw 3 phases of him this season. You saw him trying to turn a new leaf and carry on his friend's dream of trying to be the glue between the mutant and human conflict. You saw grace from him in episode 2 when he old man would just destroyed all those human beings and had them crash down to earth. He showed grace. Magnus back in the day wouldn't have shown that. You saw a protector of not just humans but mutants on Genosha. He like, I mean, at the time we thought he sacrificed his life. Then you saw anger Magnus and like him going back to like, look, man, I'm tired. I'm tired of like trying to go through this durable cycle of trying to fight for space on this earth just to be tolerated. I don't want to be tolerated. You know what I'm saying? And like, and he goes from that to like going back to how we see Magnus as he is, as this man who is all about mutants but don't fuck with humans. And one of the more emotional scenes that I can recall in recent memory is him just resigning concentration camps in this episode, talking to Charles about it. Being just peering at Charles and like saying, "Man, I don't remember my parents' faces." Like
Mhm.
like seeing that, I forgot who he was. I saw a child. I didn't see a grown 60-plus-year-old man right there. I saw a child just pleading for to see his parents' face one more time. And like, and this is a cartoon. Like I had to pause it because I got so emotional seeing that part. So for me, man, like the guy who played Magneto, that motherfucker was in his bag this season. Like, because I feel like you saw all 4 seasons of that character, and I've always liked Magneto for the hero for the other side aspect, but seeing the different levels and different paths of who he is and like and how he loves and how he shows his love and his compassion and his hatred all at the same time, I thought was, and that's as humans, right? Like we're perfectly imperfect. Like I think Magneto indoctrinates that.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
answer.
I'm I agree with Frank for all those reasons. Of course, you saw the different, uh, how multifaceted Magneto is, right? I think that was just really done extremely well, and see the overall arc of his villain era. But also, I have to. I think I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Gambit. Like Gambit had a lot of screen time in this very short-lived season for him. It still hurts my heart to recall the events of episode 5, but to show him, he's not like necessarily a lovesick puppy. He accepted Rogue's decision with grace. And I think in this era that we're living in, to see a man not flip out and not, go crazy because he was rejected by a female, and just accept what it was and then kind of move on from it and still protect her to his last dying breath, was just a beautiful story in and of itself. And he died a hero. It's still, like I said, it still hurts my heart that he died. But Gambit definitely had a beautiful character storyline that I will greatly miss. I'm hoping we hopefully somehow get him back. Like, I'm still fingers crossed. Marcy, I know you're probably with me right here, right? Gambit though. Gambit had an amazing time on this show for what we did see. So yeah.
I think we're going to talk about Gambit here in a little bit. I have a question for Frank coming in a little while. Marcy, you want to go to you real quick? And it could be the same answer. Who is your favorite character, and who do you think was the MVP of the season? Because X-Men is, of course, on an ensemble cast. Like Wolverine, Wolverine is kind of the main character. Although this show did a great thing where they made him a secondary, a side, side piece, if you will. He's a role player, and they like elevated the other characters. So who was your favorite, and who was your MVP? And it could be the same one also.
I would kind of echo what Brittany said and say Gambit was the MVP. Again, he sacrificed his life, just like we were reminded by Rogue in this episode. Like, Gambit gave his life so that we all could live. I love how she talked about how it was a great display of non-toxic masculinity, to where she didn't choose him, or he thought she didn't choose him. He didn't really get to know, because he died before he got to know that she didn't want to go with Magneto. But again, he just kind of was like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to harass her about it. I'm not going to be a terrible man about it. I'm not going to blame her for it. Also, shout out to Wolverine for that, because he also didn't take advantage of Jean whenever she kissed him. He was like, nope, like, you were just confused. It's you and Scott. Like, this was just a mistake. So again, I applaud Bo DeMaio or whoever wrote this for good examples of non-toxic masculinity, especially in this day. And then especially in 97, when this was set, where obviously that was happening all the time. And then favorite would probably be Magneto, for what Frank said. I think they did a great job of showing that Magneto hates humans so much because of all the terrible things that they've done to mutants and to each other. But I think he's the most human out of all the mutants, because he has anger and he has compassion and empathy and love for mutants and wants justice for them. I think all of that makes him more human than some of the other X-Men, who are very much all about tolerance all the time. Even when you're wrong, do you still try to see the other side? Like Bastion said, he's like, you guys are trying to recruit me right now. Like, I could kill you and you're still trying to recruit me. What the hell is wrong with you? So I think for that reason, I really love Magneto.
That's a bar.
Well,
That's a bar.
Well said. Tristan, you're who's your favorite? Who's your MVP?
Both my favorite and my MVP picks are probably two people I don't root for. Favorite might be Bastion, for the simple fact that he just had nothing but bars. Like, everything he said was bars.
He was
And
good. Yeah.
and it's just a great commentary on the ridiculousness of humans, which is my bag, like 100% of the time. MVP honestly is between Magneto and Jean Grey. Like I just felt like Jean Grey she didn't always do it, but she came through for the most part when when they needed her to. At least it seemed like it to me. And Magneto, I think, is the most dynamic character out of all of them.
Yeah.
Like as Frank went through, like there's so many different sides of him. You see him as the unquestionably villain. You see him as, maybe I can be a leader on his other side for the sake of a greater good. Is no, fuck that. Like I'm back to the old me. So the most dynamic character, but I think Bastion, like he just pops when he was on the screen, like pops. Even though you're rooting against him completely, or you should be, but he'd probably be my favorite.
Yeah, and Bastion was looking pretty cool, like in what looked like Stark tech. Looked like he had like an Iron Man suit in this episode. I don't know. I don't know if it was, but it looked very similar to an Iron Man suit. For me, the Goblin Queen, she didn't get enough playing time to qualify for a postseason award, but um, she's got a special place in my heart. I appreciated the Goblin Queen quite a bit, Madeline Pryor. But no, my favorite character was actually Rogue, and one main reason because Rogue, the voice actor who plays Rogue, has such a distinctive voice for how she voiced that character. And I think that if you had someone else voice that character, I think it would have hurt the whole series, honestly. I think that would have maybe like it would have made it feel a little less legitimate. So I'm so glad that voice actor was a part of this series and continued with that character. And she had a bigger role in this series than she ever did in the OG series. And then my MVP, I think Frank said it the best. It's Magneto. Magneto, I mean, really, honestly, just listen to what Frank said. He kind of nailed it. The only one thing I'll add is in the first or second episode when Magneto lifts the UN Council in the air and he says the line, "Don't make me let you down." I love that line. I think that should have been in a movie. And hell, I mean, if they put it in a movie, fine by me. Like I will not criticize that because that is a great line. It's a great scene. He's showing them how powerful he is, but he's also saying like, "Look, I'll work with you, but like if this goes sideways, you're going down literally and figuratively." So, I definitely enjoyed that. And that was like I said, that was episode 1 or 2. So, and this show just kept building. Um, yeah, a lot of great characters. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of options from this series. But speaking of Magneto, let's start off with the episode. We start off in the mind of Magneto where Xavier is taking control. We get to kind of see their what I believe is a memory of the first time they met and also when they revealed they were mutants to each other. Uh Marcy, I want to let you talk about this a little bit. What'd you think about that opening scene and just kind of how the Magneto being, or Charles being in Magneto's mind was kind of not the A plot, but a big plot of the story for this episode.
Yeah, I think it was a great opening. It started off with just music, and we hear like a great throwback tune by the Birds to Everything There Is a Season, Turn, 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 which I love that song, but I like how they used it in the episode. Probably obviously to connote that it's back in time, it's not in present day 97. But also I think just kind of evocative of there is just kind of a season for everything and everything that the X-Men have been going through and will go through. I didn't really like being inside the mind of Magneto because of what he said. He told Charles, like, this is a violation. Like, I don't like having you in my mind. This is kind of messed up, which I kind of agreed with. But we got to see a lot of Magneto's just backstory and what really drives him and motivates him. And I think this episode really had just great scenes between Magneto and Charles where you could see that these are very intimate scenes. And you don't really see a lot of that between male characters on TV, I think, because it just makes people uncomfortable where men are just being vulnerable, and it doesn't have to be sexual or anything like that. It's just men being vulnerable and opening up. And I really liked that. In this episode, we got to learn a lot more about Magneto, what drives him. But again, it felt kind of wrong to just be in his mind like Charles was.
Yeah, Professor X, he's pretty loose and fast with the rules, it seems like. He kinda, he kinda does whatever he wants. Frank, I want to get your thoughts on the whole Magneto and Charles, and how, Charles is kind of playing with his mind, and then when he needs him, he, you know, frees him.
I didn't take that as him playing with his mind. If you remember in the episode before, he pretty much used Magneto as a as a channel to like redistribute the power around the earth to strengthen the electromagnetic field. When he does that, Magneto's mind is shattered. So he has to go back into his head and try to jog up his memory of who he is, because there's only a allotted amount of time before his mind is lost forever, and he's just his mind collapses. So Charles is in there trying to bring back Magneto to who he is. And to me, I saw it in a whole different light. I saw it as a sacrifice. Like Charles is willing to go down with the ship, because he doing what he did, he helped heal the earth again of its magnetic pull. And he could easily just said, "Fuck it." Like you stabbed one of my dearest friends, my student. He's presumed almost dead. He could have just said, "Fuck it," and like let him die. But like he went back into his mind to try to jog his memory up, and it was almost like a kamikaze mission, because um if he fails, Charles is collapsing in Magneto's mind. They're both gone. So it was pretty much a 42-minute episode of him trying to get Magneto back to who he is, because Magneto's hate consumes him. So like when he saved the Earth, like Magneto's hate and confusion is what manifested, and Charles is trying to put that back, and like trying to let me know, hey man, you're more than that. This is, you're not only, Magnus, you're a man with feelings. You're a caring person. You have family. Your family might be gone, but the family you choose, myself, the X-Men, the people around you, we are your family as well. And it took damn near to the brink of both their extinction for Magneto to snap out of it. So
Mhm.
he wasn't really torn with his mind. I think he was trying to get him back.
Okay, yeah, fair argument. Um, Moving on in the episode, we get to see the Phoenix rises for a final time. Tristan, I want to ask you about this. What did you think about Jean Grey uh, tapping into the Phoenix Force to save the day for, for her group of for the gold team, I guess it was, of the X-Men?
I mean, yeah, that's why she's like a co MVP. Like she just seems to tap into the best parts of her power, and I remember that a lot from like the first class, and I forgot what the one after that was called, but kind of same as well as the one with Sansa Stark in it. My bad. Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, Dark Phoenix.
Um, you understand, like she is really that chick. Like she's the one. Like I think if everybody maxes out their powers, like she's one of the top, if not the top, mutant in the game. Um, Also, be a great time to tell you. I don't really have I don't know that much about this whole Dark Phoenix thing, like the backstory or whatever. But whatever that shit is, like that's a that is her I guess super duper power. So yeah, like she just managed to come. And also, like one thing I like about Jean Grey, also real quick, is that she kind of seems to be like the conscience of the show, of the X-Men, I guess, like the moral conscience. Big Jean Grey moment. Shout out to her coming through when they needed, because they were on the ropes, fam. Like
They definitely were. Yeah, with Bastion and Sinister, they've got Cable, mind controlled via Sinister, and Bastion's telling Sinister to ask Cable or say how many times he failed to save his mom. And he says 200 times. And then, Jean turns the table on all of them. and even on Sinister. And Brittany, I want to get your thoughts because obviously Sinister has been a thorn in the side of the Summers family for a long time, especially this season. What'd you think about when Jean took away the mutant powers or whatever that Sinister has, and then you see this, instead of this like jacked up superhero looking thing, he's a small guy with kind of like an alien looking face.
I mean, the man's also out of time. Like he is not from that era whatsoever. I mean, he's old as fuck. Like he's been around a lot longer than he should have, and that's because of either his genius or his mutant power or what have you. But the fact that she bested him when he talked all that smack leading up to her being in that pool of water, and I'm like, okay, we absolutely know that the Phoenix is going to arise once again to best him, best everyone, and just like tear this place up. And and like Tristan, I'm not too familiar with the Dark Phoenix. I say alter ego, but it's not really an alter ego. It is very much part of her, but for that to be on display, however short it was, and for her to basically just say, like, you ain't shit, that was incredible. What a wonderful moment for women, a woman superhero, and be able to just disintegrate him, if you will. Right. So it was amazing. I really enjoyed that part of the episode as well.
And I thought it was a nice touch how, Sinister, when he's depowered, he's like, show me my face. And so Morph, who, Sinister tortured Morph in this series and also more so in the original series. So I like how Morph then like showed him what he looks like and says, oh, you look the same to me. So I thought once again, a great use of Morph. And we have another one of those coming up here in a little bit. We'll talk about. Frank, I want to get to you. So even though, Jean Grey uses the power of the Phoenix to free the other X-Men, Bastion's still not done. He rips Cable's metal arm off, beats him with it, and then he like uses the tech from the arm to turn into like what I can say is like a winged Iron Man, and they keep calling him the Future Incarnate. Is that the name of Bastion? Like, is that another name of him? Another like nickname or something in the comics?
It's a name that they used before. It's not really a nickname, but
Okay.
they've used it before. I must say, man, one of the funniest parts of this episode is when he bitch slapped Cable twice with that arm. That was fucking hilarious. I'm sorry that he came back and then came right back with it again. Like that was hilarious. I'm sorry. That was a black man wrote that scene. That was fucking hilarious. That was not a white person who wrote that screen that scene. Um, no, so like if you know, so the techno the virus that Cable has, that metal is ingrained in that techno virus. And so when Bastion gets that, he has even more tech here and in the future because that armor's from the future. So it pretty much just evolutionizes his powers even more. And so when he does that, it just makes him just pretty much unstoppable at that point. Um, I didn't know much about Bastion going into it. I knew a lot about Nimrod and Master Mold, and Bastion is just a mold of all three of those guys. And so if you remember in the OG series, Master Mold's goal was to supplant all the world leaders and make them robots or switch them out as robots. And you kind of saw that plan manifest in this episode too. And that was a great job by the writers because you remember Bastion is tortured by memories of every Sentinel in the present day, future day, Nimrod, and Master Mold. So that part was Master Mold's idea coming out into fruition of him wanting to make the Prime Sentinels and supplant all the world leaders as machines. Um, I'm sorry, what was your question? I do that a
No,
lot.
no, you answered it. You explained it just about the
Okay.
Future Incarnate and just
Yeah.
how. I mean, do you think that was Stark Tech? Didn't it look like Iron Man to you?
It was not Star Tech. No,
It wasn't. Okay.
no, that was tech from the future during the Age of Apocalypse. More so Nimrod than anything.
Okay.
Yeah, Nimrod and Master Mold from the future.
Looks like he had the boosters on his feet, just like Iron Man.
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks similar. Speaking of Iron Man, this is the best. This is a good time as any to mention a ton of Easter egg characters. I'm just going to list them all. We'll get everybody's favorite. We have Silver Samurai. So after Jean Grey, unleashes her power, and basically it frees the Sentinels around the world. They're now the ones that were human or now that were part human are now human again. And as that happens, we see the Silver Samurai, which we saw that character a few episodes ago. We see Iron Man for the first time with Captain America with his shield. So he actually found it after Rogue tossed it into the mountains, into the snowy mountains a few episodes ago. Cap found his shield. So if Iron Man and Captain America, we have Daredevil stopping, I guess, thieves, looters, or whatever on the street. So the man with no fear is there. We have Doctor Strange performing surgery in costume, which I loved. Which there were a lot of Doctor Strange nods throughout the season, so I'm glad we got to see him. We have Black Panther, which we'll talk about which one. We see Cloak and Dagger, which I mean, I'm not super familiar with those characters, but they did have an like an ABC Family series or whatever the Family Channel is now called.
It was on Freeform.
Freeform, there we go. It's on Freeform. That's actually one of the higher ranked series if you go to Rotten Tomatoes. So maybe we should all do a rewatch or a watch of Cloak and Dagger. We see those two characters. We see Morph later on morphing into Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. He's stretching out to hold on. We see Omega Red again. And then we see Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson, and Flash Thompson watching the television at the end whenever they're watching the news of the asteroid on TV. So go ahead, Frank.
That confirms the theory now.
Yeah.
And in the Spider-Man series, Mary Jane Watson was missing.
Right.
And she was swapped in with a different Mary Jane Watson.
Right.
And in the series finale of Spider-Man, he was looking for her with Madam Web. And now seeing that, the nerd in me just like screamed. I was like, "Oh shit! He found Mary Jane. Like she's back. Like because like she was missing in the finale." So,
well, I watched Madam Web this week, and all I know is her web connects us all. So that's how he found her. But no, that's a great point because that Peter Parker, you're right. That's the Spider-Man animated from the Fox cartoon series from like 1998, which the X-Men also appeared on a crossover episode. So very cool to point that out. Let's just go around the room and talk about who are your favorite Easter egg characters. Marcy, I'll start with you from that list of characters, or if I missed some that you saw, what did you like seeing that you weren't expecting to see?
Oh, like you, Justin, I also saw Madam Web this weekend, so I'm going to go with Peter and Mary Jane. It was like, oh, okay. Like everybody, I guess, is in this episode. So yes, shout out to anybody who watched Madam Web. You are very strong to spend your time watching that willingly.
Exactly. Brittany, who is your favorite Easter egg character?
I mean, it goes without saying. I've got a few, Justin. Let's just be real. A couple that you didn't mention, actually. But Daredevil, of course, I like lit up like Christmas when I saw him, of course, and also seeing Doctor Strange in costume performing surgery with the I was going to call it the dark arts. Hello, Harry Potter, with his magic, and that was really cool because, like you said, we did have a lot of hints that that were nods towards Doctor Strange. Yeah. But if you go back into Magneto's mind and the little boat that's on the water, Rogue is calling out for Magneto. In the background, you do see silhouettes of Wanda Maximoff and Quicksilver. So I thought that was incredible.
And Polaris.
Polaris, thank you. Yeah, I always forget about that one. But yeah, we did see the silhouettes of the twins. And obviously this wasn't in the MCU, but they are children of Magneto. So that was very, very cool to me. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that was amazing.
Very cool. Tristan, what was your favorite Easter egg character or ones that something maybe you noticed that I didn't notice?
I doubt that. Y'all saying names I've vaguely heard or don't know at all, but Daredevil for me, that was very clearly like Daredevil is very high on my MCU character rankings, like super high, like top 5. So I was very happy to see him. Can't wait to see him doing more work.
Yeah, and we will next year when we have Daredevil Born Again. on Disney Plus. The 9-episode series drops, I think in spring, I think March maybe. So looking forward to that. Frank, were there any Easter eggs that I missed?
There was a scene where Psylocke is
Yeah.
is fighting the Prime Sentinels. You see Dark Star on side
Yeah,
with
see,
him.
I don't know those
Um,
characters.
yeah. And there was so many I lost count.
Yeah.
Man, for me, Chachaka, like
That's what
as
I was
Black
gonna ask
Panther,
you about. Yeah,
that was
let's
my and like I had to correct a lot of people, man, because people say, "Oh, it's T'Challa." No, Captain America said T'Chaka. Like
yeah.
that's T'Challa's father. So that tells me that T'Challa's a prince, and he hasn't taken the herb yet. So and it's 97 too, so it kind of makes sense
Mhm.
that he's still pretty young at this point. That was like, to me, that was so detailed placement for me. But
Right.
that's the one that really caught my attention.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I seem I feel like wasn't Black Panther in the OG series briefly? Like just like a quick shot of him. I thought he was.
He was, but he was masked, so we didn't know which one it
Okay.
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that it wasn't T'Challa. That they could lead to a T'Challa in this universe going forward. And like you said, you see Steve Rogers, mention him, and they're both telling President Kelly, like, "Hey, like, don't fire nuclear missiles at this asteroid, asteroid M," which, as Marcy pointed out earlier, is the Magneto Protocols, which is a very cool. I love how there's the Avengers Initiative, there's Project Rebirth, which is how we got Steve Rogers and Captain America. I love all the titles for these operations that seem to be, kind of self-explanatory, like shoot missiles into the sky and destroy an asteroid, but let's call it the Magneto protocols or whatever. So,
Did
um,
y'all happen to catch the aliases listed in the Magneto protocols?
I didn't.
So there was definitely a nod towards Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender, who have portrayed Magneto in the movies, which I thought was absolutely incredible. And then there was one other, and I had to look up this name because I wasn't familiar entirely. Michael F. Watterson, who voices Magneto in the show. So I thought that was great that they gave a nod to those actors respectfully.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, no, I didn't pause it on that. So there was so much to see in this episode, honestly. And even later on in the episode where we see a board of missing X-Men characters, and they do show Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. They say they're both off planet. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Um, back to battling Bastion. We've got him. Um, Marcy, I'll go to you. What'd you think about when Rogue got the chance to kind of get some revenge against Bastion?
I love it. Rogue is kind of like a mutant after my own heart because, like I said, mutants were expected to be like better than humans, right? And turn the other cheek. But if you fuck with me, I'm gonna fuck back with you and get my revenge. And I don't care if it's not being the bigger person. So I didn't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she basically says like, Gambit was his name, remember it. And then she does like a Superman punch and just, I mean, she punches him several times. He then actually gets the upper hand. Then Sunspot makes the save. I did like whenever all the X-Men are kind of getting their shots in on Bastion, and Jubilee joins the fight, and he's like, "What will you do to me, child? Slay me with 4th of July?" Like I thought that was a cool line. And
I
then
have
of
a quick
course,
question.
go for it.
So while this fight is happening between Bastion and Rogue, we see that they're like in outer space, of course. And I think the explanation that Bo DeMaio gave was that they're on the part of the moon where there is like oxygen or something. And that's why they're able to breathe. What was that statue face? And I'm going to ask that to Frank. That to me kind of looked like Thanos, but I wasn't entirely sure. Can you shed some light on that?
Oh, I can. That's a huge Easter egg. That part of the moon is one of Apocalypse's bases, and
Ah, okay.
the face that you see, is the face of Apocalypse.
That's what I
Okay.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my second guess. I wasn't entirely sure. It kind of gave me Thanos vibes, but I'm like, why would Thanos have like any sort of camp on the moon? That makes a lot more sense now.
I mean, why not? If you could have a camp on the moon, go for it.
Listen, if I need to get away from Earth, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
I would like to also be on a board that says off planet. Like that sounds like a great little break.
And
Me
so
too.
what I took from that when I saw that, I took it as he's been hiding in his main timeline for like probably the whole season, just hiding in the shadows. Because that base, he created that base. It's not like that base was just put there out of nowhere. Like he's probably he's actively probably working in the shadows. So when I saw that, I was kind of like, man, that's probably the greatest Easter egg of the episode.
Yeah, no, I thought it was Apocalypse, but I wasn't totally sure. But I'm glad that Brittany, glad you noticed that and brought that up. Um, continue with the story. Bastion's basically undone by Beast, Jean, Storm, and Morph. Like hotwire a Sentinel, and basically he's done for. Then, as was mentioned earlier, the X-Men try to recruit Bastion to try to save him, and before he can, obviously he's not going to go with them. Like he's on his own. The government fires off the missiles, and then it seems like he goes headfirst into a missile. And so my question for Frank, because I think Frank would know better than anybody, is Bastion dead, or are we done seeing this guy?
I don't think he's dead. I think he probably got swiped into a different timeline. But I don't think he's dead. I feel like if he was dead, it would have been a clear, concise like death scene. The fact that it kind of like just left it up to interpretation, leading to believe that he probably got sucked into a different timeline.
Okay.
That would make sense given the events that occurred once the episode like ended.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense. Because I still have questions about what happened to some of these characters, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, let's talk about some of the more emotional moments in this episode, because there are quite a few. First off, I want to mention how Wolverine is still injured from what happened with Magneto in the previous episode, and we see Cyclops like come over to his bedside and like tell him like, hey, like, and Jubilee's there, and he's like, don't you dare break her heart, because she's trying to like get Wolverine to better, and Scott tells Logan, be the best at what you do, heal, which I thought that was kind of a cool moment between those two characters who don't see eye to eye in any form of the X-Men, whether it's movies, comics, or in the animated series. So I thought that was a cool scene.
You took it as him talking about Jubilee.
Yeah, I don't think he was talking about Jubilee. I think he was referring to Jean. Yeah.
No. He was talking about Jubilee because she was there next to the bed and she was like about to cry. I guarantee
Wolverine doesn't care about Jubilee like he does Jean.
Yeah.
I took it to mean like both of them. Like, yeah, obviously I'm talking about Jubilee because she's here, but also I'm talking about Jean because you love her and she loves you. That's how I took it.
No, I took it.
I only took it as
Jean.
him talking about Jean Grey.
Exactly.
I took it as Jean, bro.
I didn't even.
Yeah.
There was no other thought to me. I could be wrong, but like, yeah.
That makes it strange to me. That makes it even like
how
like they're romantic rivals. Like, why would he say that about Jean
But
Grey?
he
Like,
knows how to appeal to Wolverine. Like,
exactly.
Live for her. Even though I don't fucking like you and I made you go on the team that was going to go up against Magneto.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. I just thought that because Julie was right there, Jubilee was like on the verge of tears, or maybe she was crying. I can't remember exactly. Okay.
Not at all. That's not what I interpreted, and I'm going to pose that to the live chat here. What do y'all think? Who do you think Cyclops was referring to? Do you think he was referring to Jubilee or Jean when encouraging Wolverine to do what he does best, and that is heal and don't like disappoint?
Okay, so sticking with Jean and Wolverine, we see a scene where Wolverine squeezes Morph's hand and says Jean. Then Morph turns into Jean to say, I love you, Logan.
Case in point. Point.
Okay, but here's my question. Now, Morph does that. Is Morph doing that because he knows that Logan loves Jean, or is he doing that because he also loves Logan?
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
okay. Marcy first. What do you think?
Yes, that's very intriguing,
Yeah.
which I like. Like everybody can like everybody. Well, that would be a different show. So I'm just gonna stop talking. Yes.
I like your style, Marcy.
Tristan, do you have any thoughts on this? Do you think it's a little bit of both? Do you think he's just like placating, like, okay, I know you're in love with Jean, she's not here, or is it kind of him like his way of expressing how he feels via Jean Grey?
I, with very limited now, I think it's the former. I think it's kind of some placation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frank, expound on that.
Well, we Morph and Wolverine are very close. And
Yeah.
I feel like and Wolverine knows how Morph feels about him. It's like a friend zone thing. Like Morph loves him, and and well, Morph's a new character for the show, but like, um, his feelings for Wolverine is deeper than what Wolverine can return. And I think when he did that for both him and Jean, since Jean wasn't there to like say it for herself. So that was just a perfect opportunity for Morph to like say how he really feels without saying it as himself.
Right.
So
Has this been in the show the whole season? Like I haven't caught a single lick of this shit. What the fuck? What are we?
Yeah, because
Am I-
remember the episode like where there was like the shower scene where Morph
yeah,
goes in there, he thinks he's coming in there to see Logan. What episode was that? Number
Maybe-
4,
That's
maybe?
four.
That
I think
was
episode
3.
4. That was 3.
That was
Yeah.
3 because that's when we got the Goblin Queen, and
There we go. Yeah.
like Dante's Inferno was
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
had. Yes, that was that episode. I am going to.
It's subtle though. It's so subtle.
Yeah, it's subtle. It's very subtle.
But they
just
are
gotta-
super close though, even back to the OG series. Like
Yes.
like that's like Morph. Wolverine's best friend is Morph among the X-Men.
So I can tell you what I think,
Yeah.
or I could tell you what I know.
Do
Tell me
both.
both. Yeah.
What I think for sure that it was his way of being able to share his feelings with Wolverine, but having to use a beard, if you will, in order to convey those feelings. Frank, you're killing me right now.
Cover years nephew, because I know he's watching right now.
But being able to express his feelings, but doing so in a face that Wolverine would accept, right? He does not necessarily share the same feelings as Morph does with him, but obviously it's very well known how Wolverine feels towards Jean. Now, I will tell you what I know, and this is by confirmation of Twitter, courtesy of Bo DeMaio. Bo DeMaio did confirm that Morph is confessing his true romantic feelings to Wolverine in that moment.
Okay.
Mic drop.
That's what I thought. That's honest. Yeah, I thought that was, yeah. I mean, there is some subtlety to it, but it was like also like he's kind of shooting a shot.
He did. I mean, and I think it's very appropriate given the state that they're in. It seems like that asteroid obviously is going to enter back into Earth's atmosphere, and they're just going to plummet and die. And what do people do in their last moments? They confess their true feelings.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. And Morph took that opportunity, however conscious Wolverine was or was not. He at least got to speak his truth. He got to put his feelings out there. And I mean, if he knew he couldn't say it as Morph, he said it in Jean's voice. Jean actually might feel that same way too. But Morph was for sure confessing his love towards Wolverine.
Once again, a great usage of Morph throughout the season. I feel like they found a way to kind of sprinkle him in, and through having him be the Hulk and different characters and Mr. Fantastic and Jean and all these characters, I think they really utilize that character like in the perfect way. I'd like to see maybe a bigger storyline, but I think we might get that in season 2.
Now, just
go
a
ahead,
little
Frank.
bit comic book nerdism from me. it's not far out of the realm that Wolverine might not feel the same way. And I say that because in the comic books he's bi. Like he's had relationships with Hercules in the comic books, um, and a couple other male
Wolverine
characters.
is
Yeah, he's bi.
okay.
He's bi in the
I
comic books.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he's bi.
Absolutely love that.
Yeah, I mean, he's mostly a womanizer, but like for the most part, he's had like there's a I mean there's a comic book issue where him and Hercules get it on. Like it's very I didn't give that book to my comic book to my nephew because I didn't want him to read
Yeah,
that part. But it
right.
was yeah, it's very graphic. So yeah.
Nephew, cover your ears.
He's been asking me he's been asking me for that comic book for years. I'm like, no, bro, you're not ready yet.
There's
There
an
is an
Eddie. Go ahead.
there's an age an age limit.
There's an Eddie Murphy movie where he's like Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. What is that movie?
Hercules.
There
The
we
Nutty
go.
Professor.
None
Nutty
of
Professor.
yeah.
There we go.
Hercules.
Okay. I mean, I knew that about Deadpool. I didn't know that about Wolverine. Maybe that's why we're getting Deadpool and Wolverine this summer. Because why not? I guess, right? So we'll talk about that later on. So as the asteroid is plummeting to Earth, we get another emotional scene. We get Cyclops and Jean Grey talking with Nathan to say their goodbyes, to say their goodbye to Cable. And Cable says something like, when I lived in the future, like it always really pissed me off hearing about the X-Men, hearing about all their great stories and their heroics. And he's like, I just felt bad that I wasn't a part of that. So that was kind of him like saying like, hey, my parents are cool. And then um, with Jean's help, Cyclops shows Nathan his eyes and he says, they're good eyes, and now they're your eyes. I love you, son. What did y'all think about this little kind of goodbye? I mean, it's not really goodbye for very long, as we see later on, but I thought it's pretty good stuff. Again, from an animated series. Tristan, I'll let you start off. What did you think about the uh the parents, so to speak? Although Jean's not technically his mother, it's Madeline, but I guess we'll just go with it.
And I'm gonna have to do a rewatch. Well, I'm gonna do a rewatch anyway, like the entire season, because the Jean Grey Madeline cloning thing kind of went slightly over my head at the time. Like I guess I kind of caught back on it by the end of the season, but I love that scene because it kind of it crystallized why I love this show so much. Just, despite the fact that this is an animated series, like my wife, when I first started watching, she was like, when did you start watching cartoons? And so, but the thing that sets it apart is the writing.
Yeah.
Just being able to tap into like those relatable human moments. Like a lot of cartoons don't even attempt to do that. And I think X-Men 97 has done this at a very, very, very high level while also making it like accessible. So yeah, I love how it really is just like the juxtaposition of this super big, strong dude, Jack dude, and he is essentially reduced to a child because like these are his parents, or at least one kind of parent variant. And his
Parent
father,
variant. That's great.
yeah, he has like this strange relationship with, and you can kind of see like the icy wall kind of breaking down with both of them
Yeah.
throughout the season. It's just really, really, really good storytelling and great writing. Just being able to like, again, it's a catharsis. A lot of cartoons don't have many catharsis. Most cartoons, like dramatic cartoons, have like one or two cathartic moments in a season. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not getting out of Ninja Turtles. Like there's no heartfelt moment between the Ninja Turtles. Like, or if there is, there are very few of them. This
Yeah.
one is like 4 to 5 in a episode, right? So like that lets you know that they're operating on a completely different level. And that scene, essentially like he's broken down, beaten down, like he literally got beaten down, like with his own arm. Like that was wild. Just insanely disrespectful. And you're also kind of grappling with the potential end of the universe. Like, so he's at the end of his rope, but like that moment with those two, I feel like is like the rebirth, of confidence, of just like his power, that I think he needed. So that's just an excellent scene. And it works in so many different ways.
And to add on that too, like I totally agree too. I think that's a perfect scene. But to add to that, when Bastion makes him admit how many times he's failed. That scene is powerful because he's sitting there groveling in his failure. Like this is about to be 201 times, and like I think getting that boost from Scott and the Dream kind of like I think re-energized his hopes of like of fighting again. Because like, bro, like it's one thing to fail 2 or 3 times, 200 times, bro, 200 times. Like that would drive anybody insane.
Yeah.
And to like, and I think the writers having them there broken and battered and beaten, and then and giving that glimpse of how many times he's failed before, and it looks like he's about to fail again. Getting that halftime speech from Scott and Jean, I think was so timely and just perfect placement for that episode.
Yep. And then, and Marcy, I want to go to you because then Magneto lives. He's back. He actually says Magneto lives, which I thought was both very cool, but also kind of corny. With Xavier's help, Magneto regains his consciousness. He sends the asteroids back in space. It explodes. It leaves most of the X-Men presumed to be dead. Marcy, tell me, what did you think about Magneto getting his power back and basically saving the day?
I loved it because it was such a great buildup, right? Like Charles has been in his mind and he's like trying to help him remember everything. And he's like, come on, you are Eric Magnus Luncher. You like, what is the name that you took? So it's like building up to where he's like, oh, I'm Magneto. Magneto lives. Yes, a little bit corny, but also kind of cool because it's Magneto. So I thought that was great and just kind of, I don't know. I think that also kind of just re-energized like the rest of the episode as well for me. Again, coming off of like something sad where like we see not Madeline, but Jean and Cable and Scott to that's a sad scene. So it's like, okay, like now I need to be re-energized. So I think it was great.
Yeah. Then we fast forward 6 months later. It's 6 months after E Day, which I assume E Day stands for what was it? Not extermination, but what's the title? Extinction Day, maybe? Is that what E Day stands for? We get a radio report, and the reporter is saying, you know, Graydon Creed, who is a name from the original series. I don't know that we saw him much in this season. I can't remember it. Graydon Creed has edged ahead of President Kelly in the polls after the situation in Santo Marco, where extremists are preaching the second coming of Magneto. And Frank, I'm going to direct this toward you. What the hell does that mean? Also, could you was Graydon Creed in this season? I don't remember.
I think Graylin was. I think there was a cameo of him in the courthouse in episode 2. I think.
Okay.
But that part I don't. That part I'm not sure of. The events of Sam was it San Marcos?
Santo Marco,
Santo
not
Marco.
San Marcos, which is here in Texas, but Santo
Yeah.
Marco, which is I think a fictional country in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, that I'm not sure, but the fact that Graydon Creed is running for president is the equivalent of Trump running for president. Like this
Exactly.
is like this is like he is the founder of the Friends of Humanity. Like he is a
Yeah.
madman, and he's also Sabretooth's son. That's a hence the last name Creed.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get a Creed appearance next season for sure. But last I remember, and Justin, you can attest to this more than I could, but like last
Mhm.
I remember in the OG series, Graydon was defeated and he was put at the doorsteps of his dad Sabretooth's house
Right.
in the woods, and we never saw him again. That's the last time we saw of him.
Right.
So the fact that he's reemerged again and he's like reactivating, he's running for president, that tells me a lot has happened in between that and now.
Well, and he is a anti-mutant, which that doesn't make a lot of
Yeah, he's
sense,
a
but
mutant.
right. And Frank, you can
The
help me with
irony.
this. You can help me with this. His mother is Mystique, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
His
So
brother is Nightcrawler.
yep.
His sister is Rogue.
Yeah.
He
Stepsister is
hates
Rogue.
he hates his family. He hates all mutants, but he's a mutant.
But I mean, again, this show, for as fictional as it is, it speaks to the human heart. How many people have you walked through in life that were just filled with self-hate? That just manifests different forms, whether it's their skin color, whether it's their creed, whether it's their heritage. They're so embarrassed by what they are that they do everything they can to repel from it. And that is in essence Grayling Creed.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean he's definitely going to be,
Sorry, just
one.
some Martin comment.
I know Marcy
Somebody called
just
him
dominates. Yeah, the private chat.
somebody called him mutant Jason Whitlock earlier.
That's funny. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Y'all keep saying Creed, and I'll keep thinking, "Hold me now, I'm 6 feet from the edge." Sorry. Shout out to the Texas band.
They're not from Texas, I don't think.
Don't they have residents in Arlington or something?
Maybe, but I think Creed's from Florida. But
Oh,
it doesn't
no,
matter.
whatever.
Yeah. So next up, we see Forge is looking at a bulletin board of X-Men pictures of X-Men. Most of them, ones that we've met this season or that we've seen this season, say it says missing or presumed dead. But there's some other ones on there. I want to give everybody a chance before I go to Frank. But did y'all notice any other characters on there that you'd like to talk about, or hopefully you think we'll see in season 2?
I mean, they showed the Maximoff twins as off-world, which I thought was really, really cool. There was one other one. Ooh, I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm gonna have to call up my notes here, but yeah, Forge is on the hunt to try and find the
Colossus
missing
is there.
Colossus. That was another one.
I think Iceman might be there. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm
Havoc
gonna have
is
to go
there
back and
too.
see.
Yeah.
Havoc's
Yes.
there. I saw Shadowcat. Kitty Pryde was on there. She's
Kitty
alive as
Pryde,
well.
that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a list. If you guys
Okay,
would
go
like to
for it.
hear the list.
Yep.
So top row: Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, Beast, Magneto, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, Sunspot. Middle row: Professor Xavier, Scarlet Witch, Off-World, Colossus, Morph, Rogue, Dust, Archangel, Magic, not to be confused with Frank, who's Black Magic. Bottom row: Wolverine, Iceman, Havoc, Cable, and it says AWOL, Exodus, Quicksilver, Off-World, Shadowcat, and Emma Frost.
Interesting lineup of characters. We saw Emma Frost this season. Marcy, do you have any thoughts? You think we're going to see more of her?
No, I don't, but I found it interesting, Brittany, that you said they marked Cable as AWOL and not just kind of like missing. If they don't know where he is, why did they mark him as AWOL and not missing like they marked the other one? So while you're reading that off, I was like, oh, wait, that's very interesting. But I'm excited to see other characters that are on the board that we haven't seen this season, maybe in the second season. That would be interesting, especially when you said Iceman. I hadn't noticed Iceman on the board when I watched it.
Iceman is one of the original. So I was almost saying Avengers, but he's one of the original X-Men. So that would be cool to see. Forge looks like he's trying to, create a new team of the X-Men, either to help find the X-Men or to help, do what the X-Men were doing, in their stead. We see then we get Bishop. Bishop makes his return and he tells Forge that the X-Men are trapped in time. And I love how he's like, Forge is like, the X-Men are dead. And then Bishop's like, no, he's like, this is our first time at the X-Men are dead rodeo. He's like, it's less of a question about where and more when. Something or someone yanked our friends through time, and now we've got to go rescue the X-Men, which I thought is a very cool way to, like Tristan said earlier, you're taking all the characters and you had them all together for this season for the most part. Now you're spreading them out for season 2 and 3 and whatever else. I guess Tristan, I'll go to you. What'd you think about that ending with bringing Bishop back? He's a time traveler also.
I called it. I called that he was going to come back.
Yeah, you did. But Tristan, what are your thoughts on Bishop coming back and seeing, because he's the one who took Nathan to the future in episode 5. I don't remember which one it was, but anyway, so he's back.
Honestly, it completely reminded me of Dario Naharis and Jorah going to go find Daenerys.
Yeah.
Like literally, like it almost down to the T. I mean, I definitely think it adds a ton of more intrigue for the next couple of seasons. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of shaking up the globe. Like, a lot of great shows do that. We have the furthest that they went in this first season, I think, was Genosha. And so at the end of this, like, we not just in completely different like places, but we're in different realms, we're in different timelines. Um, for me, not the biggest timeline fan with Marvel, but like kind of expressed that.
Yeah.
That was my. I haven't watched Loki season 2 for like that very reason. Like, it just I haven't. Like, I just haven't. First, it's the space thing that I have to like really force myself to get over. Like, too much space stuff is just like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know what the fuck these planets are, you know. So like, I don't know. And then it's the time travel. Like, those, because I love this show so much. Like, I'm gonna like get through it and kind of get over that. But yeah, that is really that. Like, but it's because of this show, I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt and like dive all the way in. Like, eventually I'll go back and rewatch the OG seasons this summer. But no, it completely reminded me of Game of Thrones. So like, I'm not saying like they're biting from it, but like, that's just a classic pivot that like the
Right.
great shows do. Is just kind of take you to a whole different thing and expose you to something different. So I'm excited.
And I do like the idea of Bishop and Forge creating a new team of X-Men to go find the X-Men. If that's what ends up happening, I think that's a kind of a cool idea. We'll see if that's actually what happens. So after Bishop tells us that the X-Men are lost in time, we find out where they're lost in time. We see that Cyclops and Jean are in 3960 AD, a desolate future where they encounter Mother Ascani and young Nathan. Now, Frank, I'm going right to you. Who the hell is Mother Ascani? Tell us all about this future hellscape that Jean and Cyclops find themselves in.
Well, let me tell you. So there's a alternate comic book called Cyclops and Phoenix. It's an alternate timeline where Cyclops and Phoenix are, with Jean Grey, are in the desolate future, like 3,000 years later,
Yeah.
and they come across Mother Scotty. Mother Scotty is an alternate version. It gets kind of weird, but she's an alternate version of Rachel Summers, which Rachel Summers is an alternate version of the daughter of Cyclops and Jean. Now, Cyclops and Jean have no children in the main timeline, but in the alternate version, Rachel Summers is their child. So Rachel Summers, Mother Scotty is an older version of Rachel Summers, or a different version of Rachel Summers.
Mhm.
And this is a desolate future where Apocalypse has now reigned for like 2,000, 3,000 years now. He's ruled over like pretty much the Thanos thing. Like, he's ruled over different multiverses at this point. It's primarily the main timeline. Um, Now, my theory with that, the Nathan that you saw there, I think is the Nathan that Bishop lost going into the future. That's my
Okay.
theory.
Okay. So it's
I,
not Cable.
I don't think it's Cable. Oh, that child has not become Cable yet.
Okay.
The Cable that came back is a version of Madeline Pryor and Cyclops, but I don't think that's their Cable. I think that Nathan, who is in the distant future as a child, is the child that Bishop lost going back to the future. Because if you remember, when they went back, Bishop said that we lost, like, we broke apart, like another branch broke off, and I lost Nathan going back into the tunnel of the multiverse. And I think that Nathan is Madeline and Madeline and Cyclops' kid.
Very cool. Okay. That's interesting. Now, as far as the other X-Men, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto, they find themselves in ancient Egypt in 3000 BC, where they meet a character named In Nur, a younger version of Apocalypse. I'll go to Frank again because I think he's probably the only person who knows. Tell us about this point in time. Is there a comic, touch point for what's happening with these characters?
Yeah, so that version of Insaminor Apocalypse is the younger version of Apocalypse before he gets in touch with the Celestials and gets the Celestial technology to enhance himself.
Okay.
So the Apocalypse in the main timeline, that's the finished product of what he is.
Okay.
The survivor of the fittest, like his like Apocalypse's main goal is kind of like Thanos in a way. Like how Thanos believes there should be balance in the universe. Apocalypse's mindset is survival of the fittest. Only the strong survives. And going back to my theory in Genosha, um, that's kind of what Apocalypse wants. He wants the weak to die off, and whoever remains for that are his children, are the ones that he's gonna move on to the future. And now my question is, why would if Apocalypse sent the X Men back into different timelines, why would he send those X Men back to a timeline where Ed Sabinura is not Apocalypse just yet? Because I feel like they can change the future by altering the past with Apocalypse in that version.
Right.
But if you saw their faces when he said his name, they looked spooked because they knew who it was when Exterminator said his name. But I think what's going to happen is that Apocalypse is going to be the main villain next season, and I think they're going to have to probably talk to that Ed Sabinor to try to alter his future of meeting the Celestials and getting that Celestial tech, and becoming the Apocalypse that we know. Um, I'm excited, man. I'm excited because if we remember in the OG series, where we left off with Apocalypse is that all the world's powerful telepathics, Psylocke, White Queen, Charles Xavier, they pretty much trapped Apocalypse in like this negative zone in the multiverse, like in between time and space. And that's where we saw Apocalypse last. So to see him now lets us to believe that he somehow broke out. Or it could be a different version as well. But I'm really excited. And then the base that you saw um in ancient Egypt, that's one of the bases in one of the lead comic books as well. So just a bunch of Apocalypse Easter eggs, man, that I'm just like really excited about. Y'all thought season one was lit, fam. We about to get cocaine induced coma, nigga, in season two, bruh. For real.
Well, I just want to point out that in Sabanur character, the first I ever heard of that character was when Oscar Isaac played Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse, which was, I don't know, what was it, 2017, I believe, or so, whenever that movie came out. Yeah. So the last part, I love how like Hank gets the final word. He says, "Oh dear," when they realize where they are, and then we get a to be continued, which I love that. Marcy, I want to throw this to you. Which one would you rather be stuck in? 3000, 3000 AD or 3000 BC?
That's a good question. I thought of that once I saw it, and neither. My answer is neither.
Neither. Okay.
Egypt is hot as fuck. There's no AC. Like, not doing that. And then the future is like also crappy because that looked desolate, like some kind of
Right.
dystopia. Probably also no type of AC, or it looked kind of cold there, so probably no heating. So no, I like the comforts of 2024. Keep me here. But I did love how Beast is carrying Professor X. It just looked very, very cute.
Yeah.
I guess to see him just kind of like tiny little Professor X in Beast's arms. So neither. My choice is neither. Do not
What
send
if
me anywhere.
what if you have Iceman with you though? Would that help you?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Game changer, right? Yeah.
Interesting.
He's like
Yeah.
instant AC. Yeah.
Yes.
Brittany, I want to throw this to you. Do you have any questions about maybe some other characters that we're wondering where they are?
Yes,
Go
of
for it.
course I do. Where
Yeah.
the fuck are Wolverine, Morph? I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Was Storm anywhere in either one of these locations?
Storm is nowhere to be seen. Jubilee
Where
is
are
missing.
they, people?
Sunspot.
Where are they? Like, I need to know what's happening to these characters. Listen, Storm
Yeah.
had a hell of a storyline where she lost her powers trying to do the good thing, and she had to navigate life without having her powers, got it back, came back with major style, major swag, and all for it to be separated from Forge, whom they've like kindled something, and he's very concerned about her. I mean, he's concerned about all the X-Men, but he wants to get her back. We don't know where she is. We don't know the status of Wolverine. We don't know if he's able to heal from having all that adamantium ripped out from him, like, like nothing. And then Morph like said a big truth on their part. And it's like, where the hell are they? Did they go elsewhere in the multiverse, or somehow did they stay put on Earth, or are they completely obliterated? We've had a lot of lost people. We don't need more. We don't. Sorry
like
for the
how you got
dramatics, but
super close to your camera. That's
this
appreciate
was
that.
my Edna mode. Like, if y'all have watched The Incredibles, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I was very like, wait a minute, wait. We're gonna do a to be continued. Get a mid-credit scene that
Yeah.
doesn't even explain the rest of the
Well,
like the whereabouts of these characters. Like, I
before we
need explanations.
the mid-credit scene, we're gonna do that next. But Frank, I want to ask you: do you think the remaining X-Men, as we mentioned, Storm, Wolverine, Morph, Jubilee, Sunspot, you think they're stuck in the present, or where do you think these characters are?
Yeah, Jubilee and Sunspot were on the ground, so they're probably just taking a little vacation and probably distraught from what happened to their
Oh,
comrades. Yeah, remember when Jubilee
that's
fell out
right.
the
Yeah,
yeah, Sunspot saved her and they went to
yeah.
the ground. So they're probably just hiding. They're probably just like distraught from their loss and probably just hiding out. Um, I think Storm, Wolverine, and company are probably stuck. Well, no, Storm is with was Storm with Beast in Egypt, and no,
No,
she wasn't them.
on
She, mi-
on Forge's board, she says missing or presumed dead, or missing,
okay,
presumed dead. Yeah, pretty sure.
she's somewhere in a timeline too. I'm not sure which timeline, but she's probably stuck somewhere in a timeline as well with Logan probably.
Okay, let's get to that mid credit. Very short mid credit, but I think it will mean a lot in season 2. Yeah, we get our mid credit scene. I think it's the first mid credit scene in the season. In the present day, Apocalypse visits Genosha. He says, "So much pain, my children, so much death," as he picks up a playing card of a queen. And I guess I'll go to Frank first. This is a nod to Gambit's return. Obviously, I think we all think that. How is Gambit going to return from the dead?
As the four horsemen.
The
The
Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, right?
yeah,
That's what. Yeah,
the play on words, man.
yeah.
Death. He's gonna be reincarnated as death. So he'll be back as the four horsemen of death.
So
So
he'll be a villain.
he'll be a villain. Yeah, that's how it was in the comic books. He's a
Okay.
villain. Um, now another plug possibly. Wolverine was also a four horseman for a little bit as well. So I don't know if they go that route. Maybe. But for sure, Gambit, he is the epitome of death as one of the four horsemen. So
Let's fucking
yeah,
go.
Yeah, but do
yeah.
you want to see him as a villain though?
I want to see him. I want to see him. I need the Cajun accent back, okay? I need him with his crop top and the beignets. I need that back in my life. Yes.
I mean,
I
He
will
he won't
accept
he
him
won't
in
have
his
the
villain era.
yeah, he won't have the Cajun accent. Yeah, I don't think he'll
Oh,
talk. So
oh
and I
well,
don't
that's
think
fair.
he's going to be working on his jumper if he's working for Apocalypse. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
one thing about Gambit. He loved to play ball. Like,
He can live
yeah,
his best life however, or afterlife however he chooses. Like, that's fine. There's been many adaptations of death and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I'm gonna take the Supernatural route. Supernatural had death as an old, I guess, English white man who was just so badass.
mhm.
I mean, if Gambit came back in that fashion, but still kept that Cajun accent, like, let's go, bring him back.
Let's see. Marcy, what do you think? I mean, obviously you want Gambit back, but do you want him back as a villain?
Hell yeah, villains are great. I mean, Magneto is supposed to be the villain here, and he's great. And I like what you said, Brittany, about Supernatural. I mean, I think old English white men were the harbinger of like death for a lot of people throughout history. So that would be interesting. Yes, villain Gambit. We are all here for it. Slay us, Daddy Gambit. Do it.
Oh gosh, that's going to be the quote, the pull quote from
Oh,
this episode.
we're
Yeah,
here.
that's the clip right there.
We're
Uh,
here.
Tristan, I've had a lot of questions for y'all tonight from this episode. Do you have any questions as you leave this episode in this season? Is there anything like that's like on the tip of your tongue you want to get out there and ask us, or just thoughts you want to pose?
No, for me, I need to do like the backstory research. Like I came into this season completely blind.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot
and I
of
guess
people
that was
did,
the fun.
honestly. Yeah.
That was the fun part of it, actually. Like it's been a while since a show, like any type of superhero show or fantasy show, like I just went into it without having that background knowledge and that context. So it'll be fun to go back and kind of connect the dots, the summer and watching the OG seasons, or something condensed. But that's just for me. Like I'm completely blind. Like I don't like the way Frank, it gets all excited before he answers a question. That's how I am about like Game of Thrones, Last of Us, whatever. So it'll be fun to kind of catch up on some of it. I'm not catching up on all of it. I'm sorry. NBA playoffs, afoot. But
Going on, yeah.
it'd be fun to go back and kind of get that context.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I understand. Frank, before we get out of here, I want to get everybody's prediction for next season, but is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to mention from this episode?
I think we pretty much covered all the major plot points. With the X-Men being gone from this timeline, you might possibly in season 2 get an Avengers
There we go.
cameo of like them fighting alongside Forge, trying to maintain what's going on Earth with Apocalypse now, on Earth. So we may get a little bit of cameos of the Avengers, Spider-Man, T'Chaka and company, until they retrieve the X-Men. But nah, man, I think we pretty much covered everything, man. The major plot points. Nah, I'm good.
I have a question.
Go for it.
There was a lot of theory surrounding the one Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper, was that her name?
Yep.
Was anyone else disappointed that she turned out not being Mystique? Because I was pretty convinced throughout this whole season that she was Mystique in disguise, and it did not turn out to be that. I was waiting for a reveal in this finale. Anyone else?
she was just a person. Like I think we all thought there was more to her, and
So disappointing.
it turns out she wasn't even like a villain. She was just kind of a bureaucrat or someone kind of caught up in the machine. It seems like so. I definitely was kind of disappointed in that, but I mean that's a minor detail for the season. Anybody else have thoughts on Dr. Cooper or something else we didn't talk about?
For the way the story was constructed, if it was Mystique, it wouldn't have made sense because Genosha, she would have been killed. Like she wasn't attacked. Like the Sentinels would have detected.
They would have known.
Her X gene, and it wouldn't have made sense to make her Mystique and explain that part as well. So
yeah.
One other last question. It seemed that I think it was in the beginning of this episode that Bastion went to go retrieve his mother. He seemed like he was trying to aid her back to health to some degree. I mean, if he's gone or he's in another alternate universe, is he there with Storm, Logan, and Morph? Like that's one theory. What's the status of his mother? Like, is she going to be able to make it? Like, it's probably minor, but it was just something that popped into my head just this moment. But could we see Bastion in one of these alternate universes with the X-Men? I mean, truly, are we going to see him once again?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. Okay, let's go to final predictions predictions for next season, for season 2. Marcy, start us off. You have any predictions for what you expect to see in the next season?
I have no predictions or expectations, which means I'm expecting anything and everything. So I'm very excited to see what happens. Definitely here for like an evil Gambit. Definitely want to see what Magneto does next season. Want to see more of Sunspot, see how like he just kind of evolves as a mutant. And definitely more Rogue and Storm and Forge and Bishop. I definitely want to see that. Yes, all of it.
Yeah. The thought of seeing Rogue reunited with Gambit, but he's not the same Gambit, that's pretty enticing, I think.
I think so, because then like would then she fight against him or would she join him? That's also very interesting.
Good point. Good point. Tristan, any predictions or anything you'd like to see in season 2?
I would like to see where the Charles and Magnus relationship, whether they can come closer together as far as ideology, friendship, or do they, as is kind of destined with their throughout the different mediums, do they continue to divide, and who do they take with them in that division? That's what I'm looking forward to.
Very well said. Brittany, what about you? Any other predictions you have or things you're looking forward to seeing?
I am very curious as to how they're going to juggle multiverses, storylines, and how they may bring this back together to just one main storyline. We've shared concerns about the MCU and how it's branched off to like multiple things, and is it going to make sense overall in the very end of it? So I'm hoping that we're not going to have any plot holes, loopholes, that kind of situation for this next season. And I don't know if you know this, Justin, or not. Is Bo DeMaio, was he involved with season 2
Yes.
or not? He was. Okay.
Yeah, so he was the showrunner for season. Well, okay, so he wrote season 2, or he's like the main writer.
Okay.
He will not be the showrunner per se. The season 2 is in production.
Right.
They say it's going to come out sooner than later, which I think could mean Christmas of this year, if not
Ooh.
maybe like next year around the same time. I don't think it's going to be more than a year.
Okay.
From the things I've kind of read and seen.
Gotcha.
But yeah, his vision will be carried through season 2. Now, season
Perfect.
3, that's a whole new ball game. That's going to be the current team will be continuing where Bo DeMaio's story leaves
off in season 2.
They're actually writing season 3 as well right
What's
now.
that?
Okay.
They're actually writing season 3 as well.
Right. Yeah.
So with that bit of information, now I feel a little bit more confident that with Bo DeMaio having written season 2, I think because he was so meticulous with his storytelling, I think it's going to come together. Whatever may transpire in season 2, it's going to come together in the end. But because we're dealing with characters in multiverse, it runs the risk of being a little convoluted. So hopefully that won't happen. I'm very much looking forward to whatever it is that we are going to get. Like Marcy, I have really zero predictions and zero expectations, and that's just the way I have to live my life when we are watching these shows or movies and coming to this platform to share our thoughts and things of that nature. Because if I'm going to go into something with a negative mindset, like you're not going to change my mind, period.
Yeah.
So no expectations, no predictions. I'm just here for a good time. And if Gambit comes back in whatever way, shape, or form, that's just a bonus. That's just, how will I survive when you've gone so far away?
You always have to get that in every episode. It's great though. It's a very good impression. I enjoy it.
Thank you.
Frank, you were the king of predictions this season. Give us some predictions for season 2.
I think Cable defeats him. I think Cable finds his MVP moment in season 2. Cable and Apocalypse are they're immortal enemies, like they're adversaries. And Cable being in this season for as much as he was a surprise. I think you get even more Cable next season, and I think he's going to be the one that stops Apocalypse and helps bring the X-Men back. Another prediction I have is that I think Sinister is not gone. I think he'll be back too. And I think the Cable cloning, playing with the Summers gene pool is going to continue in season 2. I think Cable is going to get cloned as well. There's a character by the name of Strife in the comic books as well. That's a Sinister Apocalypse creation from Cable's DNA. So that might be like the mini Bastion of season 2, along with Apocalypse.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm looking forward to talking about season 2 when we get to that. But yeah, season 1 was great. I think we all enjoyed it. I mean, I know we all enjoyed it very much. But we're all looking forward to season 2. Can't wait for that. Um, the show, like I said, this show really surprised me in how good it was, and I think it surprised everybody because it's and Tristan, don't feel bad. A lot of people, started this show cold, and I mean, honestly, the OG series was 72 episodes, 74 episodes. So it's almost like it's a daunting task, like do all that kind of homework to watch the series, and not to mention this series is so much better than the OG series anyway. So, um, very, very, I mean, an impressive feat, honestly. This was people have been down on Marvel for a couple of years, and now, maybe they're not down on them as much. And then I'm sure Deadpool and Wolverine is going to make a ton of money this summer, and so I think Marvel and the MCU will be just fine going forward. Either way, we're going to be talking about it. So we hope you've enjoyed listening to what we had to say about it. And now you know what we think about X-Men 97. We want to know what you think about it. And Brittany, how can people tell us?
I mean, we always invite those to listen to the live chat. Listen to me, listen to our live stream and partake in the live chat, just like King B Johnson did here in tonight's episode. We appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts. Also, Rahib, shout out to Rahib for joining us and asking us questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them today, but we always appreciate the engagement, and we invite everyone out there to take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as like this video. It really helps out our channel. And also don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you can partake in the next live stream and the live chat. So do all those things. Also head over to social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, all at Watchers Basement. Be sure to give us a follow. Use hashtag Watchers Basement to help grow our audience. And lastly, if you're not into video podcasts, we got you covered with audio podcasts available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a follow, give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. So for Brittany, for Tristan, for Marcy, for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.